And press record. No, hang on a minute.
Okay, so you just begin its recording.
No, I was just looking at my record and it said when you press record, it does it for me too.
I know, I did say that to you.
Well, I wasn't deep listening to that. Well, welcome everybody. We are delighted to be back because this is one of our I suppose absolute favorite things to do is to explore. We often talk about deep listening anyway together, and I think we're both pretty passionate about it, and so it's lovely to see you here. If you were here last time, you'll have some sense of how we go about the hour and a bit that we have together. So just to say ahead of time what we're going to do, we're going to talk a little bit about what we understand deep listening to be and invite you if you've got a comment on that. And then we'll go into our rooms. Sheila will beautifully prepare that, and you'll go off into rooms in pairs this time. And we'd suggest that you take in turns of about 7 minutes each way, and have the experience. I don't think you can have too much experience in this, but have an experience of really falling in and deeply listening to your partner. And then we'd like to come back into the room together and just reflect on what that experience was like. Sometimes people have really quite astounding insights, and sometimes they're just gentle nudges, but whichever it is and wherever it is, we love to hear back. So I guess speaking about deep listening for me has been an absolute game changer in many areas of my life, but obviously in relationships, it's clear. I was, thinking, well, what example could you give? And I have got lots of examples really of just sort of day-to-day life where the difference has been a change. So, the obvious one I would talk about is my nearest and dearest, most wonderful husband. And for years and years, you can be in a habitual caller and response, if you like. I would say that I was impatient. I was already anticipating what he was going to say. I was living in that feeling of what I thought his attitude would be. And overall, it wasn't nice in those times when we didn't chime together. And so then you move forward to when I had some insight and some learning, and just finding quite naturally that those things fell away. And I think they've fallen away in a really profound way, such that it's been an unspoken thing. We haven't said, oh, let's practice deep listening today. I think I've led the way, but it changes everything. It's almost like he has appreciated that new feeling of being listened to, and that's sort of translated into me feeling, wow, he's changed. He's really, really listens to me, and it just removes so many prickly elements. It prevents, if you like, or you just don't get that misunderstanding, which I think we used to live a lot in misunderstanding. We'd make it fine, and we've always had a fantastically strong relationship, but now it's so easy. Oh, sorry, something's happened. Let me come back. It's so fantastically easy to really think about it. And then there are occasions, I was thinking this week of how I used to get quite caught up in my own thinking about if I was with somebody who had a quite different point of view, and I thought I knew something more about what we were discussing, I would want to jump in. And I've noticed that has dissipated as well. It's like I can listen to people with different points of view until I can't. And the point there is like, well, what's most apparent to me now is the feeling. It's like a really powerful indicator of where I am, because the feeling is just night and day different when I'm with somebody and I just want to get my piece in and I want to jump back in. It doesn't feel nice. It just doesn't feel like I'm wholly with that person. I am with me in that moment, and I'm more interested in what I can convey, and I'm more interested in perhaps being right. I mean, you can put all sorts of things on it, but all I can say is whatever the detail on the surface, the feeling is so different. And I'm very, very grateful that from what I've seen so far and from what I've understood in my experience, I'm very, very, that's why I'm so enthusiastic about this, because I know that it changes relationships to the just phenomenally. And I think I'm probably right in saying the same is true for you, Sheila.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I wanted to just go, for me, to basics.
Mm.
What is deep listening? What is it? I mean, Sue's been sharing wonderfully about the benefits and what it's meant to her and how it feels to her. But I just want to take us back to what do we even mean when we use those words, deep listening? I heard somebody describe what I would say is the same thing as full body listening. It's some people might call it open listening. Some people might call it compassionate listening. But this term, as far as I know, I learned from Jack Pransky many years ago. He introduced me to this thing called deep listening. He called it deep listening. For me, it feels like a very undervalued, underappreciated gift that every single human being on this planet has access to. And I mean that when some, I know, having been in workshops and meetings and retreats, that somebody could think, yeah, it's okay for you, but not me. And that isn't true. It is available to all of us because it is who we are. So what I mean, what I see deep listening as is basically, I could say, not listening to the BS, not listening to the usual chatter in my mind, not paying any attention to any type of thoughts that pass through, not paying attention to even sensations in my body. Not only thinking, but feeling the sort of this, a pain, for example, a niggle, just really having an awareness of being still. A bit like Eckhart Tolle talks about stillness, being present, being totally present, nothing on my mind, being with somebody, being totally present, the best that I can be in any given moment, just being. And as Sue pointed out, that feels amazing because it's who we are and it's us being home, really. It's us feeling it, it's us being home, feeling at home, so it feels good. And so when that's a great telltale sign that we are deep listening, is it feels good. It feels light, it feels open, it feels easy, it feels generous, it feels kind, it feels all those good things, free, sense of freedom. And so it's exactly the opposite for when we're not deep listening. We can feel constricted, uptight, impatient is my favorite one to go to. Yeah, irritated, eager to jump in, frustrated, all those sorts of things, and yeah, that's a telltale sign. Me, I need to say this, I need to say this. That's not deep listening. That's waiting to respond, eager to respond. When we're deep listening, we're really giving somebody a huge space, a safe space, a non-judgmental space. Because if we're just being with somebody, there won't be any judgment from our part. There won't be any expectations on our part. So we're really giving people that space to sort of, okay, they're giving me space. Okay, I can sit back and now I can just share what's on my heart, what's in my mind, what needs to be said. A metaphor, and I don't know if it's a metaphor, but I was reflecting this afternoon, and some of you may have heard, I think it's The Artist's Way, where they talk about doing morning pages. So it's about writing, and so morning pages is you just start writing anything, just absolutely anything, just write until you come to the place where, I suppose, now the fresh and the new is there. There's something about that I felt like that's a bit like deep listening in a way. It's like, don't listen to all that habitual stuff that's always there inviting us to pay attention to it. Just let that go, let it go, let it go. I don't even think there's a letting go. It's just pay no attention to it. Pay no attention to it and be and see what happens. It's really like being in the unknown. And so there's a sense of that for people that, like, yeah, but if I don't think what I normally think, then what will happen? Well, let's just see, right? Let's just see how it feels not to get on the hamster wheel of thinking. And that can be tricky. And it can be really tricky in circumstances where it looks like we're meant to be coming up with answers. We're meant to offer solutions. It can be really tricky when there's silence and we think we've got to fill the silence. I've just been to the UK, and particularly because somebody close to me is in hospital, and there was lots of silence because she's really not well. And it's tricky, she doesn't speak hardly at all. And so there's lots of silence. And I found myself getting quite busy-minded at times about wanting to fill that silence and then noticing it and then drawing back and remembering, oh, remember the deep listening that you talk about so much and love? Like, just be here with her now. That's all that's required in this moment. We don't have to fill the silence with nervous chatter or feel obliged to. And it's tricky because there's other people in the room, then I notice, that are looking and searching and trying their best to come up with conversation, so it's really interesting how trained we are or conditioned we are to try and fill the space when it's totally unnecessary. And so much healing can happen in the quiet and the silence and just being with somebody. It's really not necessary to speak all the time. Yeah. And also another place for me that has been my challenge, and not so much anymore, but it was as a coach, thinking I needed to have the answer for my clients. So that would very much on my mind, somebody comes along to the session, what would you like from this session today? And they'll tell me what they want. And then to then sit back and have not have that on my mind while being with that client. At the beginning, when I came to understand what Jack was pointing to with this deep listening thing, it was noticeable how much of that time I did have that on my mind, that this is what they want today, so look out for the spaces I can help in that direction. I don't do that anymore. I trust and know that the wisdom that's available to us at all times will be heard by me or my client through deep listening. When I'm with somebody and I'm present with somebody completely, they are so much more likely to hear for themselves what wants to be heard, what needs to be heard in that moment. That's my job. That's the intention that I set, to give people a nice, big, wide berth, if you like, to listen in, to hear. And we all hear wisdom in different ways. Some people hear it as a voice in their head. Some people feel it in their body, some sensation. some nudge. This trip to the UK, I had a really big nudge to go, and it wasn't a voice in my head, but a feeling. It was a feeling just pushed me in the direction of go book your ticket now. And I didn't hear those words, but I knew it. I just knew it. So we all hear, feel, and sense the nudges of wisdom in different ways, and the more accustomed we can become to allowing ourselves the space and the time to deep listen, the easier it becomes, I think. Yeah, I think that's all I've got for deep listening, and in relationships. I mean, it's a game changer, which Sue was saying earlier on about her and her husband. Absolute game changer. Being in England again and observing people not listening to each other. It's like, wow, so little listening actually goes on in people's lives. So much waiting to respond and knowing the answer and jumping in and cutting people off, and just know it makes for such a richer experience of life when we can be with another person fully, completely, not wanting anything from them but being with them. Just a different experience altogether of life. So I think that's why Sue and I are so passionate about this, and see the absolute benefit, what's on offer to us all. Again, I'm going to go out to every single human being on the planet. This is available to, and I really, really see that if each of us knew that, and each of us, I'm looking for the word, not practiced it, but just were in that mode, what a different world we would live in. So I guess the more people that we can spread this message to, and the more opportunity we get to be in the state of deep listening with each other, the better for the planet, as far as I'm concerned. I know that's a big statement, but that's just how it feels today to me right now. So,
well, I'm just going to add to that, you know, my understanding of relationships and life is that I was brought up to think, wow, it's complex. You know, you've got to learn a lot of techniques. You've got to make sure you understand certain things and then you can apply them. And this is the exact opposite. And you know, what I've seen is that if I really want to know another person, I have to get myself out of the way. Otherwise, you can have lovely relationships, but actually mainly you know yourself in that relationship. You are connecting with yourself far more than you're connecting with the other person. And the difference when you have the experience of getting out of the way, and this is just to me a perfect and easy, you know, entry point for that. It's just different. You can truly see another as clearly as you can without the filters that are usually there, and that's very different. And I think that's how, you know, when you talk about people, we say, oh, we just keep falling in love with this person, you know, again and again and again. And I think that's because in my experience, it's because you see them clearly and you can hear them clearly, because you're not trying to orchestrate everything. I mean, you know, there's a total innocence about all of it, but we also think it, you know, we've said to each other and other people, like, why don't we do this at home? Like, you don't need a studio or an office. You can, these opportunities to fall into listening are all around us, and actually with ourselves, which is fascinating, let's say. And so that's why we're here because it's going to make you do it. It's a bit like me. I don't do exercise at home, but I'll go to my gym and do it, and I think, just do it at home, it's fine. No, it doesn't happen. So if you can make me exercise at home during this hour, that'd be great. Anyway, sorry. Yeah.
No, I think what I heard you say just then, so is it's subtractive. That's the word I would use. There's nothing to learn here. It's about unlearning, isn't it? It's about, it's not something new. It's like this gift we have, we're walking around with it, if you like, but we don't see it because we're so busy listening to all the chatter in the mind, all the judgment, the filters through which we experience the world. We're paying attention to the filters versus the purity that's available to us all the time. That's what I heard.
When you were talking about being in a situation where people cross over each other, they talk and they interrupt, and then they perhaps, you know, can get tetchy because, no, I wasn't saying that, I was saying this, etc. I can sit there and acknowledge that that isn't how it's done and be quite judgmental. So I think, well, you're not even doing it yourself now. You're aware of this situation and you're judging it. So I drop, you know, I can come in and out of it. But I do believe that we begin to notice quicker and with more ease and can, oh yeah, well, that's funny. It strikes me as funny that I do that. Like, who, I don't have to. It's, you know, there's a habit. I've seen through it. So how could it be a habit anymore? It can't. Just crops up now and again to remind me, I think, which is always very great. I'm grateful for.
Beautiful. Okay, so shall we move into
Yay.
letting people go and listen to each other? Deeply listen to each other.
Yeah.
So you're going to set them up then, Sue?
Well, you're going to do some magic with the buttons on your computer to whisk people off to rooms where we hope that will be in pairs. And then if you just decide between yourselves who is going to speak first, you then have 7 minutes. And we suggest, we were talking about this before, we suggest that for the topic is ask yourself the question, what really, really lights me up? What is it that I get excited about, I thoroughly enjoy, and speak to that? And you have permission, you have the space, the person is going to listen and just absorb what you're saying without any commentary and without any internal commentary, hopefully. And then swap over and a little message will come up in your room saying swap.
So 7 minutes each way, did you say? 7 minutes each way, and then we'll bring you back in and find out how you got on. So there you go. Open all rooms. Hopefully you'll see something up there and you can go to your rooms. Welcome back. Everybody's back. So, you know what we would love to hear? We'd love to hear from any of you who would love even just a little bit like to share. You don't have to love to share. You could like it just a little bit. You want to let us know how that the experience of deep listening, how that was. Maybe first of all, somebody wants to let us know. Was it the first time? So I'd love to. Was it first time for anybody having the? Yeah, Mary. Would you be willing to share with us your experience of deep listening for the very first time?
Well, I was deep listening with Aaron, and we discovered we have the same love of nature. And it was really quite inspiring. It was really beautiful. And I didn't want to interrupt at all. I just listened to everything he said, and he'll probably say the same back. It was very powerful. And I know that sometimes when I talk to people, I'm thinking about their process of what they're thinking, and sometimes I might sort of interrupt by helping them express what they're saying. But I'm still listening. But this moment, this 2 minutes that we had together just now, it was very, very special.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Mm.
I don't know. I still feel very full of it.
Oh, great.
But yes, it is really, it's quite an experience.
Mm.
You know, and it will make me reflect on how I am with people. But I do think I listen very carefully, but I know that I also can interrupt as well. But
Mm.
if it's a subject that really inspires me, I do deep listen, because my mind is going on the journey that they're expressing, and I'm connecting, I suppose, visually, if that makes sense.
Mm. Mm.
I think it's interesting, isn't it, that 2 minutes, I'm presuming you haven't met Aaron before, and
No,
so
no.
7 minutes with another person that you haven't met before can feel more refreshing, deeper, and more meaningful than lots of the interchanges we have with people that we know and we love and we care about.
Mm,
It's like, well, if
mm.
that's the only thing in the way, isn't that a marvelous thing to know?
It is, yes, yeah. Mm. No, thank you.
Oh, thanks for coming, Mary.
Mm. Thank you for sharing. I know I picked on you as well, so I appreciate you sharing. Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to share about their deep listening experience?
I could follow up.
Yeah, sure.
I'm Aaron. I was talking to Mary, or listening and talking.
Both, yeah.
We were exchanging. Yeah, I just want to. She started, and quickly there was some ideas, some thoughts running around, because I haven't done this before either. So I should say that as well. And as she began to speak, and then it got quiet, or I got quiet, I gotta say it was wonderful listening to her. And like you said, who would have known? And it kind of made my day. It just made my day. And then of course there's the idea, wow, well, what a bizarre thing to connect with somebody. I'm supposing she's in England, but I have no idea. And um, across the planet, that you can connect like this, and it's the kind of thing where I won't forget this conversation,
Wow.
but possibly ever. It kind of it went deep, and it was kind of nice that the thing that she loved, I completely loved. I don't know if that's coincidental or not, but I learned something. And more so, I felt I felt something inside. I did, but I felt like I felt her. And I don't know how else to describe it. It was more than just an exterior or words, or it was a feeling that was super encouraging.
Wow.
You know, if we had to choose, this is just my thought now, if we had to choose an outcome for this session, you are perfect. You know, your experience are just perfect, that you both had such amazing experiences. Really. Both you just something I'll never forget. Wow.
Mm.
Really.
So, Aaron, how much training did you have for today? Did you have a qualification for this experience?
No, um, I mean, to be honest, I've listened to a couple of videos of Mavis Karn,
Oh, yeah.
but you listen to a video and it comes and it goes. If you asked me this morning, I wouldn't, I don't know, I wouldn't be able to recite what was in her videos. So I think just experiencing it, and you guys giving us the space to take that 7 minutes, why lose that opportunity? You know, to learn something new, and even more so, to yeah, to thoroughly enjoy meeting somebody. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
Mm. I mean, it's such a wonderful example of what's available to us all the time. You know, yes, was it coincidence that you two enjoyed the topic? I actually don't believe in coincidences, but that's just a personal thing on my part. I believe everything's perfectly working out for us all the time. But having said that, I wonder what it would have been like if the topic wasn't of mutual, preference. It may have been just the same, because I have witnessed that many times before. So it looks like it may have been the topic. We'll never know, right? But I suspect it's because you are both open and gave each other the space, as we were talking about earlier on, the safe space to share from your heart and be heard. So, I mean, the simplicity of it is crazy, but the power of it, the impact of it is never ending. It's unbelievable, amazing. Isn't it? It's quite often how it works, isn't it? The simplest of things are the most powerful of things in this life. And that's why they get overlooked and underappreciated. Yeah.
And it's not like a one-way thing, is it?
No.
Deep listening itself is extraordinary, but being listened to is extraordinary. And so it's so beautifully mutual. And I think that's down to the fact that the connection that appears, and who doesn't want that? And I think, wouldn't it be wonderful to think that we could move nearer to having that feeling with many more people, with people we just meet, with people that we've known for years, that, we're just in the same old habitual kind of almost listening, still got the same judgments. It just like clears all that away. We can start afresh every single conversation. And it gives people an opportunity to be fresh themselves, to not feel, oh, I need to do this or I need to do that. Like, no, every moment of that you're in this sort of connection is a fresh moment. It's nothing to do, nothing to change. You are just showing up as you, and the person is seeing you more clearly and more closely, and that's a beautiful feeling, I think. Fairly sure. And I think that's what I heard you describing.
Yeah. Thank you both for sharing.
Thank you so much.
And being here.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else out there that would like to share? And it may be, and this is perfectly, and it's all great learning. It may be that you thought you really didn't listen very well at all, because that's really helpful to everybody else to hear. Because it's not, there's no such thing as perfection. But, oh yeah, great, Katie.
Hi, Sheila.
I
I was talking and listening with Gail. I think we'd both done it before. I've definitely done it once before. I definitely found it really hard the first time. And so what it made me realize is it's easy to get in your own way. And this time I thought I'd just try to sort of focus on settling and not being in my own way. And I really enjoyed Gail's energy. That's what I felt I got out of it. And I could notice myself kind of getting a bit self-analytical, if you know what I mean, and then just bring myself back. And it sort of has an implication, I think, like you were saying, for sort of family. So there's I'm probably a terrible listener with my family, actually. But there's two people in particular that kind of come to mind. One is my husband, and I think all of our conversations are very transactional, and we never really kind of in that space with each other at all. And I would say he's not a very talking sort of person, so I always get completely freaked out by, well, there's no conversation, there's no talking, there's nothing to listen to. And so that idea of just sort of being in silence, although often there's a screen in front of him, but then I'm kind of asking myself, well, can I just go and sit and be with him in silence with him watching a screen and feel more connected than kind of going, there's no conversation to be had here because there's no one sort of to talk to. And so that and so doing that exercise this time made me think, well, it's in me, isn't it? So that's where the possibility lies. You know, it's an intention. And the other person is my mum, and my sister's very ill at the moment, and my mum is highly anxious, and she talks on repeat, and irritation is the experience that I have listening to her. It's like I've heard it a million times, and again, that's not connection. So again, I'm asking myself, is it possible to sit and listen to my mum saying the same thing on repeat over and over in her angst, but for me to settle into a space of just being alongside her in that experience, maybe noticing the irritation, maybe sort of bringing myself back, like is what happened this time when I was listening to Gail. Like, I can get in my own head and go, I can't do this, or I can kind of just notice and just kind of go, it's all here, just sort of settle down.
I think that both those examples are, thank you for sharing, Katie. I mean, thank you for showing your humanity of, yeah, like most of us, right? No, most of us are in that, you know, transactional relationships and relationships where we feel irritable and impatient and anxious with other people. I think it's perfectly normal. I've had some of that while I've been in England too. But yes, they're beautiful inquiries for you. You know, would it be possible that you've just noticed with Gail how you're able to, as you say, you used bring yourself back, you know. It's a noticing. What happens really is we notice that we're not listening, we notice that we're not being present with somebody, and that immediately brings us back to presence. That's how it happens, you know. All we've got really is the noticing, and all we've got is a massive superpower of noticing. We notice we're not listening, boom, we're back in the present moment. Boom, we're back to deep listening. And so that's on offer to us all the time. So yes, what you're suggesting, what you're proposing, what you're wondering about, take a look. Would it be possible to sit with your husband and just be next to him or be with him without actual words being said or words being heard? I wonder, I mean, it's a grand experiment. I wonder what it would be like to be with somebody, setting the intention to totally be open and listen without words, right? Either way.
Yeah.
It's an experiment.
I think there's some angst, like you said, it's really nice to be listened to, but I think the kind of the outcome of this little experiment for me, I guess, if you like, is the power is in us, right? The power is in me. So if you wait for the other person to listen to you, you might be waiting forever, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know. and I really appreciated being listened to by Gail, but it was like, well, because we both had the opportunity to both speak and listen, we both had the opportunity to experience both of those things. So and each of them is delightful.
Yeah. So there is that on offer. So I wonder what it would be like to sit, and we could do that experiment too. Send people off to a room to sit in silence for 5 minutes and see what happens. I mean, right, that's on offer to, that really is on, you know, possibility. And we've thought about something like that on our retreat that's coming up at the end of the month, you know, the Viva Retreat, that we are going to be speaking about listening to oneself. So that's what that's kind of what's on offer while you're listening. But if you sit with your husband in silence, what's coming up for you? You know, what's happening? Like you say, the power is in you. And then going to your mom, well, yeah, I mean, just keep the noticing of getting impatient with her and getting uptight with her, and just noticing that and seeing what happens, and noticing that and seeing what happens without judgment. Yeah, that's the most important thing. The most important thing is, do not judge ourselves. Self-judgment is not helpful to anybody. No self-evaluation, no self-judgment, just that noticing. Oh, back again. Oh, back again. Oh, that's it. It's simple as that. Noticing, and if there is judgment, self-judgment, noticing that too, right? It's like,
Yeah.
That's all we can do. Noticing,
Yeah.
and noticing, and noticing, and yeah, just to see. Love to hear how that goes with your mom, because yeah, I get that. My mom does that too. When she's anxious, she goes on repeat.
Well,
Loop.
doing that just now made it look like, oh, that's a possibility that looked until now like it wasn't possible, if you know what I mean.
And that's it. That chink of light, right? That there's the possibility, the crack of possibility. That's a beautiful thing.
And also, I think sometimes for me, it's been about, oh, I'll dive in with the deepest, most difficult situation and see if I can do this. And sometimes we're just going to dip our toe in the water, and there's 5 minutes where I listen. Oh, that felt nice. And we can't underestimate either the impact and the effect it can have on the other person. And that's not our business. That's not
No.
what we're there for. But we know because our own experience, it's pretty likely. And when I first started this, the very first time I did it, I felt acutely uncomfortable, felt just listening, self-conscious. I thought, this is so difficult. I'll never do this. This is the opposite to everything I've ever been taught, you know, and getting defensive. And then I realized over time that it's not the stream of thoughts that are the problem. We're going to have thoughts that come. It's letting them go. I think that is the kind of important piece of, well, the minute I engage with the thought, I'm off. I'm not listening. I'm just not there anymore. And there are certain people, I think, that we do start layering our thinking about. So I don't think that it isn't a one size fits all. It isn't a, you know, you're not going to, none of us are, I don't, well, I'll speak for myself. I don't think I'll ever get to the end of learning and experiencing and being grateful for every little moment that I experience, because it can make all the difference.
Mhm.
But I think you spoke for, I'm guessing you've spoken for a lot of people here today.
Yeah.
If we had a show of hands, which we won't, anyone got a difficult person in their life who they get a little bit irritated with?
Nobody.
Just me then. Thank you, Katie.
Yeah, really good, Katie. Thank you. I
So
don't know. Xander did put his hand up and it's gone down again. I don't know if that was accidental or not.
No, it was quite intentional.
great.
It was a second thought. Says, oh, wait a minute, maybe no one wants to hear me. So I was listening to it. So I listened to that thought, right?
Oh.
So I pulled the hand down and hoped I wouldn't be noticed. So there you go. That's how thinking works, right? But you noticed, and here I am.
Yeah, I did.
So I was speaking, Marina and I were speaking and listening to one another, and we didn't do what we were told to do. We did not follow the instructions. So we didn't talk about what fires of what makes us enthused.
Mhm.
I don't remember the words you used.
Yeah.
Anyway, what came up in our conversation, and it's something I said, but it was something that had never actually occurred to me before. And what I said was that there's never a time when we're not listening. We're either listening to the person who's speaking to us. We could be listening to music or some soap opera on the TV or a movie or whatever. Or we're listening to what's going on in our head. Are we even watching the movie? Are we listening to the movie or the soap opera or whatever it is we're watching on TV? Or are we listening to that, what's going on in our head? Our commentary about what's going on. Oh, she's going to do this. Oh, he's going to do that. Especially in EastEnders, right? If anybody knows EastEnders, a soap opera, right? Or even a sitcom, right? But we're always listening, and we're either listening to it, to what's going on in here, the person in front of us, or we're listening to what most people in the Three Principles community call wisdom. I call it intuition. You know, that thing that makes us, for the want of a better word, intuitive, right? Creative, that whatever. Make up your own word, right? So for me, what it comes down to is that is self-awareness. If I'm noticing that I'm not listening to you when you're speaking to me, that's self-awareness. That's becoming aware of myself. But yeah, just, you know, I said it and it never occurred to me before. And then actually what we did talk about was I actually shared my experience with Marina, how suddenly I was able, many years before I even heard about the three principles, it just happened for me. That that I learned in an instant without even planning it, or I didn't know it was going to happen. And it just suddenly became an instant ability to turn off my thinking. That's no a brag. Honestly, there's nothing to brag about, right? It happened for me. And it's not, I've never been able to tell someone how to do it. What I can say is that from my own experience is that, and my camera keeps turning itself off. What was I going to say? What I can say is that as soon as I try to do it, as soon as somebody tries to tell me how to do it, if I make it something to achieve, I'm working against myself. It's either going to happen or it's not. And to me, you know, I'm either listening or I'm not. It's not, but it's no matter of. I'll finish with this. It's like it's being aware of what I'm listening to, the chatter up here, or the intuitive stuff that we can sometimes call wisdom, or or whatever whatever it looks like I'm uh, paying attention to, you know, listening to. I mean, I could be away in the Himalayas, you know, or away a walk that I took 25 years ago whilst listening to you tell me the story, and right, okay, you know, or whatever, you know, and you would never know because it looks like I'm listening, but really I'm listening to my memories, right? So that was all I wanted to say. I don't know. That was it.
Thank you. I think that's I would imagine that's very familiar situation for most of us, that we notice, as Sheila was saying, it's like you're either listening or you're not. And when you're not listening, you have one experience, and mainly it's an experience of yourself, your imagination, your recollection of memories or whatever. Or, and I'm, you know, quite intrigued to hear that you had that experience about thinking falling away. That creates a space to be with the other person. I think we're sort of pointing towards that it feels like the natural state. It feels like when we fall into that, sorry, my dog is just protesting. When you fall into a natural state, there's not a lot of thinking to do about that, because it's our natural state. What would there to be to think about? And so I think when we're not in our natural state, there's a plenty to think about, but it's the thinking that is the thing that takes us away. So I think for me, I just see it's a continuous learning, and it's wonderful to have people who are interested and open to sharing the journey wherever we are on it. Because as I said before, I feel so many times we're back at the fresh moment where everything's possible. We can't fail at this. We can repeat old habits. We can't fail at listening. And I guess the more experience we have of getting the opportunity to notice, that the more fortified we are, I guess, in our confidence that actually talking's not all that, you know, it's not the be all and end all. Whereas I think if anyone had a life, if anyone's sort of with me on this, that's how my education was. It was, how well can you speak? How well can you express? How well can you convey? I don't remember anyone saying, hey, you don't need any of that, just to listen. And it's been a godsend. So I think it was nice to hear your experience of that.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, Xander, thank you for sharing, because what I heard you say was we're always listening, and I see that to be true. So I think the distinction for me is deep listening is listening not to ourselves, not as a, you know, not to the habitual thinking, as you say. We're either listening to that or we're listening to life, let's say. You know, deep listening to me is listening to life, and listening without listening to all the chatter that's very habitual, and that's the, you know, it's all personality, the personal identity. So it's probably the distinction between personal and impersonal as well, as Sid would have said. So yeah. Anyway, looking at the time, Sue, we need to wrap up. Did you want to share a little bit about our retreat?
Yeah, well, the retreat's coming up now at a pace. We still have some spaces if anyone's interested. We will be visiting this world of possibility, new opportunity, if we begin to see what it is that is between us and the world, us and another person, and actually us and ourselves. We have a story, don't we? We have a walking story that's taken years of development and perfecting to decide who we are. And we hope to encourage people, well, we will encourage people to be just curious about what's behind the story. Oh, what story? The story of you. Who is it that you have invented that you think is you? And, you know, it can be layers deep, can't it? And I think together in we've got a lovely small group, it'll be very rich exploration, and safe and enjoyable. We can help each other on the way and guide. We're there to guide and to open up these opportunities. And yeah, so that's coming up on the 28th, I believe. I have to count back from when I'm flying out. And it's in a beautiful location in Albia in Spain. I mean, it's a great treat for me. It's on Sheila's turf, on her home ground. But for me, it's like, oh, flying into the sunshine. And of course, that's always very enhancing as well. But if you have ever wondered, you know, am I really who I think I am? Of course I'm not. You are more than that. You've always been more than that. And it's just like, well, wonder what would happen if we look behind that little story and see what we can discover together. It would be lovely to have one or two more people. We're not ever going to create a big group here, but yeah, I think I'm truly looking forward to it.
And deep listening, what we've sort of scratched the surface today. You know, there will be a lot around this, because we see it as fundamental, foundational to seeing the truth of who we really are and what's available. You know, Katie pointed the power in you, yeah. That from that space, once we've realized all the BS, term, the personal identity is made of, the stories that we believe about this person that's here. Once we've seen through that, and we'll do that through deep listening to each other and to ourselves. And so a huge part of that's going to be this. We're going to keep bringing us back to this foundational piece of listening, not listening to the mind chatter, but truly listening to life, to what wants to be created, what wants to be seen, what wants to be experienced truly, not the small self, but the big self, capital S self. So yeah, that's
untamed and unfettered.
Yeah, we've got 4 days to explore that, which is brilliant. Yeah. So you're very, very welcome. We'll send through a link tomorrow in the email with the recording for anybody who wants to listen to this, and pass it on to your friends and your loved ones. Anybody you think might be interested, we'd love to have them with us. Yeah, so that's it for today, folks. Thank you very, very much for being here. Really appreciate it. Thank you to our newcomers, Mary and Aaron, for being so generous in their sharing, and we hope to see you again soon. Take care. Have a lovely rest of the day and evening. Bye for
Thank
now.
you.
Bye.
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 Thank you
Bye-bye.
very much.
Very much.